Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at this album here. It's by Field Music and it's Tons of Town here. So yes, I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So this was the band's second album, released on the 22nd of January in 2007. So at this stage, the band were a trio, so it consisted of the two Brewis brothers, Peter and David, and a guy called Andrew Moore, who I believe was their keyboard player. He was only on, I think, these first two albums. That's one of these things, trying to research, a kind of, review, of this, there wasn't very much, information out there. If was, they're certainly not the most kind of popular, or kind of, written about band. But certainly one thing of note is that perhaps they were even though this was only the second album, I think they were maybe a bit fatigued a little bit with the whole kind of Field Music thing, because after this album they went on a bit of an extended hiatus and worked on solo projects instead. They said that they were at the time sick of their own music, which got them some kind of headlines in The Enemy and whatnot. But still it was I think they maybe just wanted to do something a little bit different for a time, which is fair enough. And then it would take them 3 more years to follow it up with their third album, the epic double album Measure. So upon its release, the album did get mostly critical acclaim. I have seen some kind of mixed reviews online from when it came out, but mostly the critics did like this album a lot. However, the commercial performance was quite lacking. Both the album and all the singles failed to chart here in the UK. And it's one of these things still to this day the band hasn't really reached a super wide kind of commercial audience. Certainly it's glad that I'm glad that their albums are doing a bit better chart wise. Certainly the one that came out last year, I'm pretty sure got top 40, so that's certainly really good. But yeah, at this stage you're still very much under the radar. So anyway, I will try to show you my vinyl copy of it here. So this is a reissue of it, which I believe you can still get quite readily available. So that's really good. So there's the cover of it there. It's a bit of a funny cover, just like a cafe and that. But yeah, it's maybe not the most glamorous or sort of eye-pleasing cover, but it's quite good. It kind of splits open on the back there, so it is a nice design overall. And then you've kind of got the band members hidden away on the cover. So there's Peter Brewis, there's David Brewis, and the other guy I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. I said might be him there, I think, but I said he was only on the first 2 albums. He might have been on Measure, I can't remember. But yeah, so that's the vinyl there, and then the inside of it here looks like that. Well, that's him there actually. And then, as I said, you got the 2 other brothers who are multi-instrumentalists, so they each play they each do the drums, the guitars, the bass, on all the other tracks, and it's all the interchange as well. Because I had the chance to see them live last year, which was a fantastic show. And again, they kind of the swapping instruments throughout the concert. Yeah, really talented guys. So there's no inner sleeve with this one or anything. It's just in a black sleeve here. But this reissue of it though here is on a lovely yellow vinyl there, which looks like that with the nice sort of custom label. So yeah, that's the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'm now going to go over each of the album songs, so I'll score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So it kicks off with a song called Give It, Lose It, Take It, which is a really good opening track, I think. It starts the album really well. It kind of starts with a kind of quite quiet, sort of muted sort of xylophone thing, and then a bit of kind of ambient noise, I assume kind of this kind of cafe sort of atmosphere, sort of thing. But then you get this heavy-ish kind of guitar riff kind of explodes out the song, and then I really like again the construction of it. You've kind of got this heavy kind of verse, but then the chorus line, there's a lot of the instruments drop out, and then you just get these beautiful harmony vocals on it. And then you've got some kind of some sort of fun synthesizers going on throughout the track, and yeah, it is just a really good time, this one here. And then again, the bridge section of it goes in a completely different direction, and then you've kind of then got these kind of different kind of sort of psychedelic sounding strings come in, and by the end of like the 4 minutes, like what the song, it just sounds like a completely different song. It just really transforms itself. So yeah, I think it is a really great track, and like certainly for me, like gets me hooked like on like the album. So yeah, give it, lose it, take it. For me, would get a 10 out of 10.
Let's joke and fool everyone, even myself.
Okay, next up is called Sit Tight, which is a kind of a bit of a more straight ahead sort of song. You've kind of got like this sort of strong kind of drum beat like on it, and these kind of sort of like on the beat piano sort of thing. So it is quite a kind of plodding sort of marching kind of like rhythm like to it. But then you've got like these kind of the vocals on it is quite softly sung. It sounds a bit kind of filtered and that, but like really nice though. And again, just the general arrangement of it is just really pleasing. Again, you've got some nice strings on it, and it just works really well. And once again, halfway through the song, it goes in a completely different direction. You get these sort of like, it's a bit of like a kind of beatboxing segment in it. I mean, on paper, it shouldn't work. Like, but for me, like on this particular song, like it does, like that kind of, yeah, like that schizophrenic, like sort of feeling to it. So yeah, for me, Sit Tight will get a 9 out of 10. Okay, so next track up is the title track, Tons of Town, which is quite a laid-back song, or at least it starts out like that. You've got some kind of, again, a slightly like unconventional drum pattern, which is kind of a bit like a field music trademark like on this album, and then again some really nice strings which come in like the second verse. And again, you've got a really nice sort of catchy chorus line. You should admit the simple things you get are complicated. Just this sort of thing that like works really well. But then kind of halfway through, the song then takes, again, another real left turn. It goes into this kind of full kind of freak out, and it gets really much heavier guitars, and it just sounds a lot heavier, this one. And it doesn't work for me, like that kind of end bit. For me, on this track, there's maybe just a few too many ideas packed in there, like for me, and like isn't quite as effective as the first two tracks, but it's still good, and certainly still like the first part of the song, which is the majority like off the track, like is like really nice. So overall, yeah, I would give that one an 8 out of 10.
Recognize the smell, but as far as you can tell, a house becomes hotel when you make it.
Next one up is called A House Is Not a Home, and this is a kind of jaunty little piano-based song here. You've got this kind of piano riff which sort of like repeats like throughout like the song, sort of quite like relentlessly, but it's just a really good song, very sort of 60s influence, certainly very Beatlesy like this one here, and then you've got all these kind of like I Am the Walrus style sort of swooping strings like going like on like throughout it, like just a really good song. And again, kind of like some nice lyrics on this one, I think, kind of about kind of sort of like living arrangements and like that. He sings like, because living on your own is never any fun, a house is not a home when you make it what you want to. So yeah, a really good song, and certainly for me, like one of like their like best singles like they've had. So yeah, like A House Is Not a Home, for me we get 10 out of 10.
Kingston isn't so far away. I should have went.
Next one up is called Kingston, and this is a much slower and softer track, this one here. Lyrically, it deals with sort of displacement and disillusionment, like in like a slightly kind of downbeat track. He sings with it like, you work hard, you get paid, but what's the sense? It really makes no difference. And it is just a nice relaxing song, this, I think, kind of after some of the more kind of schizophrenic songs where they're kind of sort of jumping about on different ideas and that, just to get a kind of straight ahead like song. And again, it's a really short track, this, so it's only about, I think, I don't even think this one like touches 2 minutes, but it's just a really nice song though, I think. And yeah, for me that would get an 8 out of 10 as well.
Working to work and you pay to play. Taking to time.
Next one up, which I believe closes off side, oh no, actually, like I've just checked here, like an open side too. It is Working to Work. Which is a decent song, this. It's maybe not one of my favourites like on the album. You've got this kind of hooky guitar riff, what kind of kicks off the song. Very XTC kind of drums and wires era sort of feel to it. But again, lyrically, this one is another track kind of about work, you know, and like not gaining like any like satisfaction from it. So very similar in kind of lyrical theme to like the last track. I'm not sure like if they were going for some kind of concept album thing, but it's certainly not a kind of theme what runs throughout the album like by any means. It really is kind of just like these like these like 2 tracks, like for me. But musically, it is quite stripped back, this one. Although it is, like I said, you've got this main hook like off like the kind of guitar riff. Certainly compared to some of the more lushly produced moments like on this album, this one definitely sounds a bit more DIY, a bit more kind of like indie sort of sound to it. And like I said, it is catchy enough, just not one of my favourites. And again, what kind of brings it down a bit is that kind of middle section where it's kind of got like these kind of very low voices saying like, what do you do section, kind of like repeatedly. Like I'm not crazy about that part like off like the song like as well, but though overall it is good while it is on the album there. So Working to Work gets a 7 out of 10. Okay, next track up is called In Context, which was the first single from the album, and this is a decent track. Again, a lot of kind of different kind of changes going on throughout it. You've got this kind of rhythmic kind of drum beat, very similar sort of feel to kind of Fleetwood Mac's Tusk like sort of sound, like to it sort of like these kind of drums like which are a bit all over the place sort of thing. But it does work though. It is a good song. I just don't think it is quite single material. As I said, I'm pretty sure this was the first single they pulled like from the album, and I do think it is like a weak choice. It just doesn't have for me the same kind of like melodic like immediacy as some of like the other tracks do like on this album. But it is still a good song though. So yeah, that would get an 8 out of 10 from me.
Space in which to move.
Next up is called A Gap Has Appeared, and for me this is probably the weakest track like on the album. It is quite forgettable, this one. You've got these kind of somber strings on it, and it's alright, you know, like again while it's on, it just doesn't really go like anywhere, this song. Very much the kind of definition like of filler there for me. But then that goes into certainly one of my favourites like on the album. It's called Closer at Hand, and this is just such a catchy song. This is pop perfection for me. Like you've got this kind of jangly piano on it, you've got hand claps like all over the track. And then again, you've got a great key change as well, kind of like for like the last verse. Just really reminds me of like XTC's like finest like moments. And yeah, just a great song though. Yeah. So Close at Hand really redeems the album, and for me, we'll get a 10 out of 10.
Shouldn't see your tired.
Okay, and then we get a track called Place Yourself. And this again is maybe a slightly more forgettable song. It's quite a kind of mid-tempo track. Again, good strings on it. But again, maybe melodically a little bit lacking. It's one of these where, like, when it's on, it is very pleasant. It is really nice. But just trying to remember, like, how it goes, you know, like, I could kind of sing along. I could kind of sing you, like, Close at Hand now. I mean, I won't, because you don't want to hear that. But that's sort of like, yeah, like songs like that are really catchy and really stick in your head. This one just hasn't, like, for me. And yeah, for that, yeah, we'll get a 7 out of 10 there for Place Yourself. And then the album closer is called She Can Do What She Wants. And this, for me, is one of the very best field music songs. This is just them at their absolute best, I think. It's really upbeat, this one. It starts with a kind of sort of thumping drum beat, and then this kind of guitar riff. Reminds me quite a lot of the Stone Roses' I Am the Resurrection. It's got that kind of, yeah, like just like with like that kind of bass, sort of like the drums first, and then this bass riff like on top of it, and like then like sort of like the vocal like kind of comes in. And it's just a really hooky song again, really catchy. And musically, again, it goes through like a lot of changes. Although it is a very upbeat and, like, I think commercial song. Like this was a single, but again, it didn't do anything. It is still quite complex. So actually, I think I'm not sure if it slows down, but it's certainly a lot of the instruments get softer, like as it goes on, kind of like the opposite of like what most songs do, where they kind of start quiet and then get louder. This one kind of starts really loud and bombastic, and then it kind of like gets like calmer, like as it goes on like a little bit. So I think that's quite unique, and it's certainly, yeah, like field music like at like their best, like for me. So yeah, She Can Do What She Wants would get like a 10 out of 10. And then another track like on the album, which I'm not gonna like include. It isn't actually. I don't believe it is actually on my vinyl version of it. Like, but it's certainly on like the version like on Spotify. There's a little track called Outro, and it's nothing much. I'm not even gonna score it because, as I said, I'm not even sure like if it was on like vinyl versions like of the album. It's certainly not. It's certainly not on my like reissue like of it here. And it's just a kind of string instrumental thing for about 30 seconds. Don't really need it. I think the album, yeah, finishes perfectly there, like with like She Can Do What She Wants. Okay, so overall, this album would score 84%. So, yeah, a good solid score there, like for this album. And initially, I would have probably said this is maybe their best album, but having like sort of like prepared this review and sort of like listened to it like a lot, I think it does perhaps suffer from a little bit of like inconsistency. You know, it has got some of their best songs ever, like on it, Give It, Lose It, Take It, A House Is Not a Home, Closer at Hand, and She Can Do What She Wants, are all field music classics for me. It's just like, again, it has just got a couple of slightly weaker moments like in there. But I do think it is a great progression though from their debut album, which unfortunately I still don't own. It has got quite rare like on vinyl, that one. But this is a lot more well produced. There's a lot more strings on it, and it's a little bit less angular than like the debut album. But the songs though are still really interesting, and I do like how for the most part they don't follow like a traditional structure. They kind of like all these songs are very free flowing, and they can kind of just go where they want to, like sort of like melodically, or sort of change the time signature halfway through, or like completely change like the melodies, like the instrumentation. So it is, I suppose, in that way quite prog like influenced, but without the kind of long-windedness and the kind of like sort of like self-indulgent nature like of like a lot of like a lot of like what you kind of call like prog rock. It is just kind of that kind of like inventiveness, but kind of delivered in kind of sort of short and sweet pop songs. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed my review here, like of Field Music's Tons of Town. So I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.